So the Federal Reserve just cut interest rates for the first time in 9 months. And no, this is not just a headline for Wall Street. This is the beginning of a potential economic turning point and the effects that will ripple into housing, lending, inflation, jobs, as well as your personal finances. On September 17th, the Fed lowered the federal rates by 25 basis points, bringing the new range to 4% to 4.25%. This marks the first policy pivot since rates peaked in 2024 after the most aggressive tightening cycle in 40 years. But this is not just a number. This is actually an indication of a changing trend. It's a signal. The Fed is no longer just fighting inflation. It's actually now acknowledging growing risks to economic growth. That's because unemployment has actually ticked up to 4.2% and job openings are falling, with wage growth that's actually flattening, which is a shift from last year's overheated labor market. Inflation remains stubborn. The CPI cooled to 3.1% with the core inflation, which excludes food and energy, and that is still hovering about 3.5%, which is significantly more than the 2% target that the feds are aiming for. And certain categories like insurance, housing, and services, they're continuing to rise faster than expected. So why cut now? Well, because monetary policy works on a lag, and that's often 6 to 12 months of a lag. The Fed is positioning to prevent a hard landing next year, especially with signs of credit tightening, slowed consumer spending, and lower business investments. But here's the part that most people miss. The Fed rate cut does not automatically mean lower mortgage rates or instant market relief. Mortgage rates are actually tied closer to the 10-year Treasury yield, as well as investor expectations. While we might see some easing, especially when inflation is still pretty elevated. That being said, this does open room for at least 1 to 2 more rate cuts by the end of 2025 and possibly another one for 2026. And in the lending space, we're actually seeing quite an uptick of applications that are already being geared for refinances throughout the next coming months. So what does this actually mean to you? If you're a borrower, which is pretty much the rest of all of America, you should expect to see lower rates in credit cards and HELOCs, as well as some auto loans in the next few months. If you're in the market to purchase a home, your mortgage rates could dip and we could see increased competition in real estate again. This comes as an amazing news for the general seasonal slowing down that we would expect in the winter months, with a potential uptick or at least a rebalancing of that typical seasonal decline with an uptick of applications as a result of these rate cuts. But if you are an investor, you can expect volatility as the markets reprice expectations around growth versus inflation. Real estate, dividend stocks, as well as gold can all benefit from more of a dovish Fed. Just make decisions based on the rate cut. Make decisions based on the trend. And guess what? This trend is shifting. It's no longer just breaking inflation. It's actually preparing to soften the landing. And if you're paying attention now, you'll be positioned well ahead of the masses. Keep following me if you want economic updates without the fluff, the facts, and actionable insights. See you guys next time.